Thank you all for being here. I'm really excited to teach you how to build and leverage AI-powered lead magnets. Just to give you a little bit of background as we get in, if I can get Gamma to cooperate here, let's say. There we go. So I've been in AI for quite a while, predating the release of OpenAI's ChatGPT 2, which was like kind of the first public release where regular people could play with it. I was playing with AI technology, really dating back all the way to around 2015, 2016, when a lot of this stuff was just being developed and it was all being built in Python. Actually, the reason I got into AI was because I was building automations for a publisher in New York, and I couldn't get it to do what I wanted it to do. And I knew there had to be a way for a computer to do it. It was a relatively simple task, but it was not something that Zapier could do or anything. And so I started looking at, well, how can I make a computer do what I wanted to do? And so that led me to learning Python, and that kind of led me into the world of AI. And very quickly, I got just kind of obsessed with this idea because I saw what was possible even back then without, these huge large language models, just these guys building stuff in their basement. And I saw the real potential there. So once ChatGPT really came out, that really made me start taking these experiments and bringing them inside my business and using them as internal process enhancements. And then shortly thereafter, as I would show clients what we were working on, they were like, oh, could you build something like that for us? And so that's where I started building some of these tools outside of my own internal use case and for other people. And one of the most interesting use cases that we've looked at is the possibility for using AI in lead generation. So we got to start with the agenda. Here's everything we're going to cover. So first, we're going to cover why AI-powered lead magnets as opposed to traditional. We're going to talk about how to leverage the AI tools you build for your clients and prospects. We're going to tell you a little bit about how to communicate AI's value, because there's still a lot of naysayers out there, and how to kind of deal with that negative energy against AI in the marketplace. And we're going to talk to you lastly about the channels, and that's probably the longest portion because that's what everybody had all the questions on the first couple of times I've done this presentation. So we're going to spend a good amount of time talking about how to actually get traffic to these tools and how to get people to convert. So traditional lead magnets are bad. We all know them. We all fall for them still, but we rarely ever read what comes out of them, whether it's a on-demand webinar that you sign up for that doesn't have a pause button and then your kid runs in the room with sticky peanut butter hands, or it's just another Google Doc that's emailed to you that gets lost in the abyss of all the other emails you're getting. Traditional lead magnets just kind of don't work. And there's really four main reasons. The first is just getting people to complete the form. A lot of people will just see an email sign up and it's probably, if they're only collecting an email, the value can't possibly be there. So they just give up. They just don't bother filling it out, or they look for the information elsewhere. And especially with the prevalence of ChatGPT, you could just take the topic of whatever the lead magnet was, plunk it in, and you'll probably get a half-to-a decent answer to what they generated anyway. Which leads to the other issue, which is there's a huge value perception because everybody's using AI to generate all of these lead magnets. So there's not really a ton of value people are seeing actually going and downloading them versus just going to AI and asking the question it's the lead magnet's aiming to solve. The other problem is, even if you do get their email, they do think there's value in this. It ends up in their inbox, which is strewn with tons of spam and stuff that they signed up for that they don't even remember. And it ends up being the kind of situation where they never look at your original white paper or, checklist or whatever you sent them. But they certainly get annoyed by the hundreds of emails that follow it, which then just leads them back to filling out these lead magnets less and less. And the last thing is that unless you're doing webinars like this, especially live webinars where you have a level of engagement, people can ask questions, they can gain insights in real time, most people are just going to kind of disengage after they fill out the form, right? There's always an email that you have to answer. There's always a kid that needs a bath. No matter what, they're not going to sit down and actually look through that PDF unless for whatever reason it is of such high value, which is hard to do, that they must read it right away. So AI lead generation really is all about maximizing those conversions on the magnets, and really it works three ways. So the first thing is that you marry that lead collection directly to the value it's providing. It's instantaneous. It has that immediate gratification of, yes, I'm going to give you this data, but I'm going to get a piece of valuable, tailored information directly after it. I don't have to worry about it ending up in my inbox and not finding it, or waiting for you to email it. It's giving it to me right away. It also allows you to streamline data collection, especially if you're using like a chat style bot, where it doesn't feel like filling out a form. One of the greatest case studies on this is that I have another business that works on the RFP process. And so essentially we manage the RFP process for our clients for a specific segment of the market. And we tried every fancy form you can imagine. So like, just come up with a form name. We tried it. Like, believe me, we tried every type of form, and we just could not get people to convert on the page. And then we put a chat bot on the page. And overnight we went from getting 0 leads to getting 4, 5, 6 leads a day. And so all it really took was taking that form and then training a bot on the form and saying, these are the pieces of data we need, and then having it have a conversation. And that's all it took. That's the only thing on the page we changed, was just removing that form and replacing it with a AI bot that would take the exact same information, but felt a lot less another form to fill out. So when we're talking about, now that you kind of drank the Kool-Aid on, hey, I need to build one of these, the next idea is, what am I going to build? What's my topic? What's my focus? And really, you want something that's incredibly narrow focused. You don't want to try to create a bot that's a clone of you, that has all of your information, that's just like the perfect representative, because those things have a tendency of failure. They have a tendency of hallucinating and making stuff up. So the more narrow you focus in on what your tool does, it does 2 things for you. First, it helps you position the value of the bot, because it's very clear what problem it solves. And these should all be entry-level problems. We don't want advanced stuff that you would get paid big consulting money for. This should be like, a good example of a bot is that we built for an accounting firm that took P&L and balance sheet and gave them a free financial analysis, right? That's an entry-level problem. That's like what the accountant would do otherwise if they were coming in for a free consultation. This just gave it to them for free while collecting their lead details and prompting them to book a call. So we weren't saying, hey, this bot's going to do your taxes for you. It's just giving that initial analysis. The impressive results is the thing that really makes this stand out from those white papers that are generated by AI anyway, or the PDFs or checklists or whatever, is because when they get something that's so custom tailored to them and they're impressed by it, then they're much more likely to do business with you, because they want to see what else you have. If this was if this was the front door of your business, I can't imagine what the inside of your house looks like. So really making sure that the bot you're choosing and the problem you're solving is capable of generating those impressive results is really important. And the last thing is, you need to make sure it fits into your customer journey so that the next steps are clear for what they need to do. So for example, if after a financial analysis, the next step is to meet with a tax advisor, then make that clear in your prompting, so that after it generates the report, it's clear what they need to do next to continue solving this problem. And this is why we start with an entry-level problem. We don't try to solve a big problem, because if we solve all their problems, they're not going to buy anything from us, right? There's no value there that we're able to add, because we already did all the stuff that they wanted us to do. So really, in terms of types of bots, most of them boil down into 4 types. We got supplemental coaching bots, study buddies, FAQ lead gen, and generative tools. And we're going to go into each of those in a little bit more detail here. So supplemental coaching, this is specifically for like the coaching and consulting crowd. This really is more of an AI version of you, with the caveat that you still work on a narrow scope. So you take all your information about like a specific framework you use or problem you solve, and you take all that information and you put it into the bot, and then have that bot walk your prospect through that workflow. So maybe you're like a sleep coach or something like that. And so you take your framework for falling to sleep on time, and then you take in as all the information, like, well, what time do you usually go to sleep? What are the things that you're struggling with? What are what's your dietary habits like? When are you stopping drinking caffeine at night, or whatever those things are? And then as it collects those inputs, it's now giving advice specifically on how to sleep quicker. It's not how to have a great sleep routine or how to fix sleep for the rest of your life. It's just like, here's how you can fall asleep in the next 2 minutes. Like, try these things based on the data you gave it. And the real benefit of these kind of bots is they work while you sleep. So you never know when your clients or prospect is going to have a problem. If you build one of these supplemental coaching bots, really it can do coaching. And if you build it in the right way, you can even build this to have a version of it for your clients. So if it's the same kind of framework they're going to get in your coaching or consulting program, you can have it play double duty and just remove the lead gen element from it. So this is a really good place to start, because a lot of people have a framework that they think they can automate. They have a process in their business during their onboarding that they think they can extract some value from. So this is a good one to start with. Now, when it comes to best practices, there are a couple things you have to keep in mind with these kind of bots. So the first thing is that you need to continually improve the functionality of the bot based on the feedback you get from users. So like, obviously your framework works when you're teaching it one-to-one, but the bot may not get it all the time. And so reviewing the logs and seeing where it's deviating from the script, or seeing where it's making suggestions that you wouldn't approve of, it's really important to go in, because remember, this is a representation of you. So it's not okay if it's all of a sudden going off script and giving people advice that doesn't make sense. So it's always critical to really monitor these. The other thing is that you have to really set clear expectations for what it can and can't do, because a lot of people will go into bots thinking like, oh, well, this is just going to be like ChatGPT. And so setting clear expectations at the forefront makes not only them trust the bot more, but also gives them kind of, what are those called? Like, I want to say road guards, road barriers, to keep them, or bumpers on the bowling alley to keep them in line with, this is what we're going to do together. And the last piece is you definitely need to have some kind of escalation path if they run into an issue that they need more help with, because not only is that an opportunity to make a sale, but also you never want someone arguing with your bot and getting frustrated and leaving with a bad experience. So as soon as the bot starts to feel like, oh, they're asking questions, or they're trying to make me go off topic, that's the point where you need a part in your prompt that gives them that, hey, I can't answer this question, but you should book a free, discovery call with one of our coaches or consultants. The next type is study buddy bots. These are really fantastic for businesses that are in a field, operate kind of in a general field where their end consumer has some kind of like licensing, certification, any of those kind of things that they have to study for. So like, think insurance or finance, anything in finance, truck drivers. All of those people have to pass certain tests along the whether it's on a yearly basis or just a once to get their license. And so having something that allows them to prep for those tests can be incredibly effective, even if your whole business isn't aligned with teaching them that topic. So like, think about it in this way, right? Say you own a company that sells electronic devices to truck drivers. Well, you know that the easiest way to get into that market is by approaching new truck drivers who don't already have brand loyalty to other pieces of technology. So you, as the truck driving electronic superstore, you go and build a quiz bot to help them pass their CDL. They pass their CDL. Who do you think they're going to go back to buy their electronics? You, because you provided a great value. You didn't ask for anything in return. You still got their email. You can still market to them because they're a truck driver studying for their CDL. And then the benefit to them in the midst of going through this process is that they get to, go through the quiz process, get instant feedback, so they understand, what questions they got wrong and what they need to do to improve. And you can even output a study roadmap for them to tell them, hey, these are the areas you're really strong in, these are the areas you're really weak in. So these are really fantastic bots, often underused or thought of as just like, hey, I can only use these if I'm teaching a certification. So a couple of implementation ideas for this. So the first thing is that this is probably one of the harder bots to code, because you need a lot of industry knowledge to be able to do this well. You need to have a question bank that is going to be very close to what they're actually going to experience. You can't like make this up, because then that's going to add no value to the experience. You need to understand exactly what the learning objectives are for each of these certifications you're going after. So you don't want to like just say like, oh, create me a CDL bot in, Grok or ChatGPT, and then just take all that information and plug it into Pickaxe. You really need to have a good understanding of like, what is the process they're going to go through? What type of questions? Is it a Scantron test where it's just all multiple choice, or is it something they're going to have to write? And then having a really clear understanding of that can only help your client as they're going through this, or prospect for that matter. You also need to have feedback responses built in when they get something wrong. So like, how are you going to explain this in a short way? You don't want, whatever backend you're using, so Claude or ChatGPT, writing a huge narrative about each question, why they got it wrong. You want them to be short and sweet, comprehensive, so that people can understand, okay, that's why I got that question wrong. Here's the correct answer, and here's a little bit about why. You also want to make sure that at the end of this process that you're giving them study recommendations, because the whole reason they're doing this is because they're trying to practice this test, they're trying to get better. And so by giving them a takeaway that they can walk, whether it's automatically sent to their email through Pickaxe's actions, or you're just displaying it on screen, giving them that is really where the value is, because there's plenty of other places online where you can go and take practice tests for all these things. Very few of them are going to give them personalized study recommendations, at least not for free. And then if you really want to get crazy with this, you could even build progress tracking systems where you're passing some of this data back from Pickaxe to a CRM, calculating their score over time, and then sending them email updates saying like, hey, last week you took the test and you scored this week you took the test and you scored this. Like, that shows a 15% improvement. Keep studying. Here's the areas that we talked about that you need to focus on. So you can really make this quite an impressive tool for bringing people into your ecosystem. Nextbot is probably the most widely used. It's been around forever, but because it's been around forever and most of them have not worked really well in the history they've been around, creates a trust issue. And these are FAQ lead gen bots. So everybody's seen these. We've gone to a website, you get the little chat bubble at the bottom of the screen, you click it, you ask it a question, it doesn't give you anywhere close to the answer, and so you leave angry and not satisfied as a customer. And so these are rather difficult to build, because you have to pipe in all of your knowledge, that all the questions and answers that people might ask, all the help documents. So you have to put in some work on the back end to load all this stuff in. But this, if you execute this correctly, this is an incredible asset to put on your site, because if it actually works, if people can actually ask it any question and get good answers, that's creating a good customer experience. That's essentially an online sales rep for your business, because it's doing all the heavy lifting that a sales rep would have to do. And then at the end of that communication, you can suggest to them, hey, we should book a call to talk about this more. And now all their early questions are answered, and the salesperson can do what the salesperson does best. So these can be really good if executed correctly. But you are at kind of a loss in terms of trust, because a lot of people just don't trust these, because there's so many of them and most of them don't work well. The benefit also to this is that you can completely replace your traditional contact forms or lead forms with this kind of bot, because why not qualify them, right? Why go through this process of them having to reach out via email and then you go set up a call and do all this? The FAQ bot can really let them self-qualify for a product and then correctly point them in the right direction. And if your product isn't the right product, you can make suggestions to other products in your marketplace that are better suited if you really want to, be nice to them and create a great experience with them. And all that time, you're still collecting all that lead data. You're still able to score it on whatever system you want, but you're really giving them an experience where, hey, I went to the site, I had questions, all my questions are answered, and now I have a call booked for Tuesday. Like, that's the ideal implementation of this type of bot. When we talk about building trust, there's really three things you absolutely need to have in place for these bots. You need to have a clear welcome message that explicitly states what the bot can help with and its limitations. Be upfront. If this thing can't, order products for you, like say, hey, I can't fill your shopping cart, but I certainly can, answer questions about any products. You also need a transparent fallback process, in that if a person asks a question that it doesn't know, make sure it's not hallucinating. Make sure it's saying, I can't answer that question, but John on our sales team can. Can I book a call with you? Book a call with him for you. And the last thing is, when you have this is particularly a pain point for me when I'm using these bots with software companies. If you're going to give me, I ask a question and it answers, point me to the help article, because it's a trust but verify kind of thing with these bots. So if you give them the answer and then you can point them to the page on your website where it says that, it's going to make them much more comfortable with the answer, because it's in print on your website somewhere, whether it's in your help docs or a sales page or whatnot. So make sure you have a directory function built in there that, if the question is about this, make sure you're always linking back to that page on the site. And you can do this in a number of different ways. You can do it through the knowledge base. You can do it through just the regular prompt, depending, and a lot of it depends on like how many products you have, what kind of questions people are asking, how many types of questions people might be asking. But really make sure that if you are like using this as like a help bot, that you are able to point them to the resources they need and still give them the explanation. Like, don't just point them blindly like, oh yeah, go visit that page, I'm sure you'll find what you're looking for. Like, grab the excerpt from the page that answers their question and then send them to the page itself. Now, last type is probably the most popular right now to build, because when we talk about impressive results, this is usually the thing that people think is going to impress people the most. I mean, as a sidebar, the thing that impresses people the most is customer service. So like anything that filters into the customer service sphere is what is going to be impressive. But generative tools are really nice because they're flashy and they can be used in a lot of different ways. You can use them, create copy or images or stuff like that, like generating new content. You can also use it to provide feedback. So if, someone says, say you have a bot that looks at YouTube scripts and analyzes it for like, is your hook in the right place? Is the pacing correct? Are you, over explaining something? Are you using words that are too big? You can build a bot that gives them feedback in real time on that and provides value by kind of guiding them into writing a better script. It always delivers high value. I mean, it's very hard to build one of these tools and not deliver something impressive. So, someone goes into this, they get really high, a really valuable piece of copy that they're going to use, or they get an analysis on one of their scripts. That's fantastic. Like, they're going to walk away happy. But the thing that most people don't realize you can use, and it's still in the generative kind of category, is actually analysis of data. This is one of the things people want most of, and there's not a lot of like built, like just off the market free tools that you can grab, that you can just put in like my example for the accounting firm profit and loss statement, balance sheet, and run an analysis of that data. And already have all the prompting built in to give the right results the first time, or repeatable results over time. So even though a lot of people are thinking about this as like, taking in an input and then spitting something out that the user can immediately like, edit their script or use this sales copy or whatever, a lot of times what it comes down to is, hey, I have a bunch of this data and I don't know how to process it. Can you process it for me? So this is another way you can use generative tools. Now, when we talk about the value creation, this is just a couple of ideas for you, right? So marketing assistants, like copywriting tools, they're okay. But in this age of AI, with this level of adoption, most people have figured out that if you ask ChatGPT to write you a social post, like, it'll do a pretty good job. It won't do a great job, but it'll be passable. And so if you're just advertising like, hey, try my tool, it'll write social posts, people aren't necessarily going to like stand up on their chairs and cheer for that, because it's kind of an easy problem to solve. So if you're thinking about marketing assistants, really think about some of the harder problems people are going, that they can't just type into ChatGPT and get an answer. So like things like, hey, can you create a content calendar that follows a specific format? Or like, can you come up with a buyer persona for me? These are all kinds of things that if you just ask ChatGPT to do it, it might do a good job, but you can probably do a better job as the engineer in creating something that really provides an outstanding solution right out of the box, as opposed to them going to ChatGPT. With the new models, research is becoming like more and more valuable to people. And because people don't necessarily know how to prompt, or don't have the ability to use some of these advanced models like Claude 3.7 and GPT 4.7, or Grok for that matter, which, by the way, Mike, when are we getting Grok? I really want Grok. Please add Grok. But these new enhancements that are being added that allow these bots to go out on the web and find information are really incredible. And you can do this to research vendors. You can do this to research techniques, any kind of market research you want to do, trend analysis. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that you can build in these bots that is still highly valuable, and still not something that the average user is going to just be able to plug into ChatGPT and get, because you've taken the time to kind of build up a prompt that delivers results that are far better than what the average user is going to get. And the last piece is, I'll just mention content feedback here, because a lot of people kind of miss the mark on this. They just let the AI talk like AI. Half of my job as a coach is encouragement. And encouragement is one of those commodities that is highly lacking in today's society. If you can build your bot to be excited about the person it's interacting with and give it really good feedback, but also encourage it to do better and to encourage it to keep going, and yeah, you should go record that video, that tone and style that you impart onto that bot can still be a tremendous source of value, even though it's doing something simple like just taking in a script and giving you feedback on it, or taking in a Facebook post and giving you feedback on it. You can build excitement into these bots, and you really should think about that in any kind of bot you build is, hey, how can I make this as less like a bot as possible and as much like a human as possible? And the best example of this is go talk to Grok and then go talk to ChatGPT and tell me which one's more friendly. Right? They're both robots, right? They're neither of them are human. But if you talk to Grok, Grok has a much more informal, casual, conversational tone than ChatGPT does. And it's much more warm and bubbly and happy. And that translates. And that isn't some kind of Elon Musk secret. They just programmed it to be that way. So you can do the same thing in your prompt engineering. You can make your stuff more warm and approachable. So now we have the tool built, you figured it out, you have this great thing, and you're like, oh my gosh, all these people hate AI. How am I going to convert non-believers? You don't have to. ChatGPT, AI in general, is the fastest growing tech trend ever in the history of the world. More and more people are adopting it every day. It beat out every social network in terms of adoption. More and more people are using this in business cases. The reality is that the non-believers, the real hardcore non-believers, are going to be the guy that's selling the cart while Ford automobiles are filling the streets. It's just not going, it's not going to be an issue given enough time. And you really shouldn't focus on trying to convert non-believers. What you should be doing is pitching this to people who already start to see the value, but are not experts in the field. They don't really know how to get the most value out of AI, but they certainly see how it can provide value in their life. When you communicate, though, because these are not experts, you really just want to focus on 3 key elements in your messaging. So the first thing is that you address the value it provides, right? How is this helping your customer, your prospect, get out of an immediate pain they're having? Be clear about the function it performs. What does it actually do? Like, okay, it performs a financial analysis. What kind of financial analysis? What can I expect? And the last piece is just to frame it as a tool, right? This is just another toolbox, like you have Excel for spreadsheets or Gamma for presentations. It's just a tool. It's just meant to help you along your way. It's not some crazy, scary AI. It's just a tool. And if you follow these and simplify your language and don't try to over-explain these things as using the most cutting-edge LLMs, most people don't know what an LLM is. So leave out all that tech speak of your promotions and instead talk about it simply as if you were selling a hammer. When it comes to hosting it, where are you going to put this thing once you built it? There's a number of different ways you can do this. Pickaxe has built in like a storefront where you can sell these and you can have trials. And if that's what you're going for, then more power to you. These are more for if you're using them specifically for lead gen. So single page tool funnels are fantastic. You just throw up a landing page, nice headline, video demo of how it works, or step-by-step walkthrough depending on how complex it is, and then the bot itself. The bot takes care of all the heavy lifting. It collects all the lead details. It passes those lead details on to you and provides the function that the tool was programmed for. So, the user leaves happy, you leave happy. Simple page, takes you no more than an hour to set up and get to look halfway decent. Now, if you want to use this as a lead generator and it's going to sell a larger product, so say this is like a larger coaching program or you want to sell a suite of these tools together, then you create more of like a teaser style landing page where your bot's at the top, the lead gen opportunity is right there as soon as the page loads, and then you direct people to scroll down the page to see the other things that they can get as part of this suite. So this is a really good way to, again, if you want to upsell them right from the page. But otherwise, if you're just using this for lead gen, you probably don't need to do this. Main site embeds are fantastic for FAQ bots. Like I said, you can completely replace your contact form with one of these guys, and it'll do a better job than having just a contact page that no one really wants to interact with. I mean, we've built contact pages on websites for years for people, and almost no one ever fills them out. And usually the only time you do get someone that reaches out via contact page is because it's someone trying to sell you SEO. So the reality is that having a bot, having a little bubble that people can interact with is going to provide more value just embedded right there on the main site. The other thing you can do is if you have service pages that are built like standalone landing pages but are still accessible from around the site, you can embed those on those service pages. One of the nicest implementations I've seen of AI was a web design company, very expensive, very high-end web design company, but they knew that their market is very cost sensitive and would not get on a call without knowing at least a ballpark of what they would be paying. So they built a bot that sits at the bottom of their offer page that essentially takes in the variables that a client might want and then gives them, here's what to expect in terms of a range of prices. So like immediately there, it qualifies them, it collects all that lead detail, it tells the people in the sales department, hey, should I follow up with this person or should I not? And it gives them, you know, a preview of, hey, if you're going to work with us, this is how much it's going to cost. If that's in your budget, book a call with us here. The last one I'll mention is because a lot of people are starting to build communities and trying to make that a revenue center for their businesses. These are really great to drive people into free communities and then do upsells afterwards. So if you gate this behind a community sign up, say in something like School or Heartbeat, you can have that as the bait to get people to sign up for your free community because, hey, this tool is inside. So that's another option. That's kind of an inverse lead gen where you're not really collecting the lead at that point. Your lead's already taken care of when they sign up for your community, but you're using that tool as bait to get them in. This can also work well if you want to build like a suite of bots and use that as bait to get people in. So just a couple ideas. Now, when it comes to driving traffic to your bot, these are really, there's no surprises here, right? It's the same stuff we've always done to get traffic to any website. There's not like a special sauce that I can really add that's like, oh, here's a new secret, you know, channel that no one's ever used. Really, it's pay-per-click, influencer affiliate, online forums, cold email, or social and paid organic. Each one is going to work a little bit different for each person based on your business, and that's what we're going to go into now. So pay-per-click is fantastic, especially if your bot solves a specific pain point, but it is very expensive. So what you need to think of is, am I selling a high enough ticket product that I can afford to pay $2, $3, $4 per lead? I know in marketing, the average cost per click can be like $8, $9, $10 for some of the broad match keywords. Not really the best strategy for me because it's going to make me broke more than it's going to generate leads. Now, if you're going to go and if you're in an area where maybe there's just, you're selling a high ticket product, but for whatever reason, ad rates are really low, pay-per-click is going to be a good strategy. But make sure when you're building your ad, don't talk about your business, talk about the tool. That should be the thing that people want to click on. Don't waste this time with your business name and all the fancy services you do. None of that matters because people in a search capacity are looking for answers. They're looking for solutions. Give them the solution in the ad copy. So say like, hey, use our free tool to do XYZ is going to do way better than, you know, our firm has been around for 150 years, trusted and verified. Like that's not going to get them to click because they don't know if they click that, are they going to be taken to the homepage? Are they going to be taken to a webinar? Does the firm even do what they want? Like they're just randomly showing up in search. So make sure that the copy you're using is directly feeding into what that pain point is and how your tool is going to help solve that pain point for free. When it comes to influencers and affiliates, realistically, this is going to be best for people who already have these networks built. It doesn't mean that you can't start building these. I mean, no one started with 1,000 people in their affiliate program, but the reality is like this is a little bit of a harder strategy to approach because you have to not only build the relationships with people, but you also need to sell them on the idea of promoting your bot. Now, the thing you can do is if you do want to use this in your program, an existing program, or whether you're building a new one, this is a really nice offer because they don't have to sell anything that is associated with a price tag and instead get paid on the back end sales. So if they promote your bot, send people traffic to your bot, as long as you have a trackable way that you can say, Joe Smith came from David Ogilvy's, promotion, then you're not going to have any problems paying those people out. So whether that's using different bots on different landing pages or, having just a limited number of people send you traffic or having them use a referral code in the bot conversation, whatever that is, as long as you have a way to say, yeah, David Smith came through and then he bought and now I'm going to pay you out. This can be really good, especially if you're selling a high ticket product and you don't want the affiliate's not really comfortable promoting the product because it is really a high ticket thing and they don't feel like other people will buy it. If your tool solves a problem, it's a lot easier for them to promote. So online forums, this is the hardest one to do if you're already an established business with a busy schedule. It's the absolute easiest and first place I would start if you're brand new and have nothing going for you and no money and no way to do any kind of other marketing. And this strategy has been around for as long as social forums have been around. The key here is that you do have to follow forum rules. You can't go and spam forums. Join forums that are going to be interested in this. You always want to position this tool as something of free value. Never position it in line with some other sale because you're just going to get banned. And really, this is going to be best for those kind of tool funnels where they can try something and then immediately buy something. So it's not always going to work best if you're just using it for a lead gen strategy, simply because you don't really know the people you're advertising to, how much they have to spend, if they're going to qualify for like a high ticket thing. But if you're selling like access to your tool set for a relatively low price, like an impulse buy, so like less than $10, less than $50, somewhere in that ballpark, that is going to give you something that you can very easily convert someone from that free tool to buying, as opposed to sending them through your regular lead gen funnel and then kind of having to figure out like, hey, should I really follow up with this person? Is this someone that just came from the forum that was just like testing stuff out? Are they actually interested? So I would think about that before you start the strategy. Oh, did I miss a? That's weird. I missed there's a slide missing there. The other thing I will mention here that was on the slide that has gone rogue apparently is that the best way to go about this is to approach the admin of the group before you start posting, or post a bunch of valuable content. Don't post any of your stuff, no tools, no landing pages, nothing like that. And then after you build up some credibility in the group for being someone who provides insights and value, approach the admin and say, hey, I have this tool I built. Would it be okay if I promote it? This is going to be the best way so that you don't get kicked out of these groups. A lot of admins will be more than happy to do it if you've been in the group a while and it provides some value. Some, if you just approach cold, will be fine with it. A lot of them, though, will be like, no, that seems like some kind of like selling thing. I'm not really comfortable with that. So just keep in mind that like online forums are all about relationships. That's really the work you have to do. You have to be in those groups. You have to be posting. You have to be engaging with other people to make this strategy work, which is why for people with established businesses, we don't have the time to do it. I don't do this strategy personally because I just would not have the time to go in there. I have a hard enough time coming up with social media posts on my own, let alone answering other people's questions in online forums. Next, we have cold email. Cold email is, I love cold email. Cold email still works, but it's only going to work best for B2B. There are people out there that do B2C cold email and they have success, and more power to them. I've never been able to kind of figure out the draw there. Cold email on a B2B, like if I get in my personal account, it immediately gets ignored. I do pay attention to the emails that come in because I want to see like, hey, if that can actually help me, then let me go check it out. So if your service that you're promoting is something that is a B2B service, this can be a good strategy for you. But you do have to realize that like cold email is not as easy as all the Twitter bros would like you to think. It's hard. It's complicated. It's messy, and it's not cheap. Your minimum monthly expenses you should expect for this is around $500. And even at $500, this is not something you can turn on and turn off like a social media ad. This is something that once you have it set up, you really want to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to run this for 12 months and I might change the campaign and the targeting and the emails and all of that, but I'm going to give this time to develop because this is not the type of thing that you're going to have overnight success with. That said, there are some things you can do to increase your likelihood of success. So the first thing is make sure your emails are short and sweet. Don't try to overwhelm people with too much content. There is kind of a sweet spot now developing as cold email has gotten increasingly popular over the years and that's essentially tied to ad rates. As ad rates have gone up, more and more people are going back into cold email. And if it's too short, it won't get read. If it's too long, it won't get read. So I like to say kind of keep it under 50 to 100 words. That's kind of the sweet spot that you want it in. Anything less than that is going to be probably a little too short. It's not going to be able to create the curiosity you want. And anything too long is just not going to get read, immediately going to get deleted. And when I say here, use cool tool messaging, this just goes back to that. Don't try to overwhelm them with how complex and awesome this thing is. It's a tool. Just keep it a tool. Hey, I built a tool that does this. Would you be interested in trying it out? It's totally free. That is going to get you far more responses than if you try to pack in all the fancy gizmos. And I spent 20 hours prompt engineering. Like, no one cares. They just want to say, hey, yeah, I do have that pain. I would like to try that tool. Send me a link. That's what you want. Last but not least, we have the social content strategy. So this is usually like the most approachable for the largest majority of people. Like, we've all run Facebook ads, or at least thought about it. And the possibilities here are probably the broadest out of all the different types of marketing we've talked about so far, because you really get to focus on creating content around this particular tool as the vehicle to send people to it. So this could be, if you built this tool for yourself first and now you're using it to do lead gen, you could just say, hey, I built this cool thing. This is what it does. Here's how it works. And just create a bunch of content around that. And don't worry about repeating yourself. Don't worry about like, oh, I'm posting the same thing every day. I mean, don't post the same thing every day. But if you repeat yourself, or you repeat the concept, as long as it's a new video, a new, new data that you're putting through it, new outputs, that's fine. I'm not going to give you points down or marks down because you reused a content concept, especially if it's working, if it's actually sending traffic. There's I don't know if he's like electronic music or hip hop or what you'd call him, but there's a guy called Baby No Money. And if you look at his TikTok, it's like the same TikTok every single day. He just figures out a formula that works and then just posts it every day. And it works fine for him. I mean, he's, made millions of dollars from his music, and he posts the exact same stuff every day. So you don't have to worry about like repeating yourself in social media, because most people are not going to see every single one of your posts. They're going to see it pop up on their feed and then disappear. And your goal is to just get them interested enough to click the button to go and check it out. Now, the biggest thing is that don't create this content without CTAs. You need to tell them like, hey, if you want to use this tool, do this. Find the link in my bio, or click on the button below the ad, or what have you. But no matter which direction you go, I should back up here for a second, but no matter what, you need to have some way to get them to the page. You need to have some clear directive. Like, don't leave it up to chance. So many people forget to put these in their content, even in their regular content. Like, you should always have a call to action in the content you're putting out. And the other type of content that I forgot to mention, I should have reordered these on the slide, but is success stories. So if, say, you did a study buddy bot and someone passed their test and like emailed you and said like, oh my God, thank you. Like, share that success story. Like, hey, I built this bot to help people study for the CDL, and I just got this crazy email from a guy who used it, and he used it like 50 times, and he just passed his CDL. So like, congratulations, man. If you want help studying for the CDL, click the button below. So like, those kind of things can be great, because it not only shows you using the piece of software or the tool or whatever you want to call it, but other people having success with it as well. And the last thing I'll mention here is that your organic reach on social is always going to be bad. No matter what, you're never going to escape it. That's just paid. That's just organic promotion for you. Paid promotion really is the way out. I advise everybody to do paid promotion, but you do need to do paid promotion correctly. Which brings you to my next slide. I have a workshop dedicated to this very topic. It's exactly how we run ads for our clients. It is way more complicated than you think it would be, but it works. And so it does take a little bit of time to set up, but once it's set up, it produces way more leads and way higher quality leads than kind of poking around and hoping you click the right button on Facebook. In this workshop, it is 100% step-by-step. I walk you through every single button you need to click. I have an AI tool set to help you develop the ads for this, so you don't even have to think about that. It's trained on the campaigns that have performed the best. We have the entire strategy. We don't leave anything off the table. You are learning exactly what we get paid thousands of dollars each month from clients just to do this one strategy. And it's only $47. Included, you also get access to a free Friday coaching session for life with me that I host every Friday. We just did it today at noon. And so if you want to sign up, you can either scan that QR code or go to that link, and you can get signed up now and you can have instant access to it. So commercial done. Back to the content. No matter what channel you pick, whether it's social, pay-per-click, influencers, forums, cold email, it really doesn't matter. what matters is, where is your audience, right? Like, if your audience is not searching on Google for answers, then buying ads on Google is not the solution. So what you really need to figure out is, what is the balance between time and cost? Do I have the time to post on forums, or do I have the money to advertise on social? Do I have the influencer network already built in, or do I think I would do better with cold email? That's really what you have to think about. Any of these can be effective. They can all work for you. It's just about what's going to be the right fit for your business based on your audience, your time, and the amount you need to spend on each of these. Now, this is the thing that I always, like, every single time I watch one of these AI webinars, no one ever talks about it. That's the golden rule of AI marketing. Watch your API budget. These things get expensive if left unchecked, and I have suffered twice because I have not kept my eye on my API usage. And so I'll tell you those stories first, and then I'll get to this kind of breakdown. So the first time it happened, we were running a marketing research piece, and we were using it to collect market research. So it was a chatbot. They would go to the chatbot. We were running the ad on Twitter, and they would complete the chatbot. And if they qualified for the study and completed the study, then they would be sent a $50 Amazon gift card. And we were having a hard time getting results, so we kept having to ratchet up the amount of the Amazon gift card until it was eventually $50. And once we hit $50, that's when the floodgates open. We got tons of leads and tons of responses. What we also got was tons of bot spam. And so what that ended up doing was creating a $1,000 API bill over the course of like 2 or 3 days. And so I wasn't expecting that. Quickly took that project from being one that was almost all profit to pretty much break even or worse. And the reason that all happened was because I wasn't watching the usage. I just kind of set it and forget it and didn't really think about it. And because there was that $50 gift certificate hanging out there, it just got hammered. So keep an eye on this stuff. Keep your dashboard as a pinned tab on your browser. Look at it every day. See what you're using. Now, the other time this happened to me, just happened recently. We were testing a bot that was performing a very simple API call function. And I had accidentally selected ChatGPT 4.7, which is the most expensive ChatGPT model. Now, I didn't intend to do that. I just forgot. I got distracted, and I forgot to switch it back or switch it to the cheaper model that I wanted to use. And I ran it probably 30 or 40 times. And from those 30 or 40 times that it ran, it racked up a bill of around $54. And that all happened in the span of about 15 minutes. So very quickly, I went from like, oh yeah, well, this will cost me, maybe 10 cents every 100 runs, to it costing $54 in the span of 15 minutes, because I didn't take the time to just like double check and make sure I was using the right model and actually go in and look at the usage and make sure like I wasn't getting hammered with charges. So when you're thinking about your API usage, unless you're building this stuff for inside your business, and this would be like a cost of goods sold, your monthly API cost should really be dedicated to your marketing budget, especially if that's what the primary use case is. And so when you figure out your total marketing spend by adding up your monthly API cost plus the marketing cost, that's going to give you your total marketing spend. You divide the total number of marketing spend by the number of deals you closed throughout the month. And you always want to keep that first month of revenue positive. You never want to like recruit clients and then immediately be on the red on them. So as long as you are revenue positive from your marketing adventures, you will be good. Good math allows you to continue to spend. It allows you to continue to grow. That's the rule. So just keep this in mind, and really, man, you don't want a surprise API bill. They suck. They are the worst. And they can be really unpredictable. So keep that in mind. So thank you all for listening to me. We have time to build bots. I have a good amount of time to build bots. So if you have a bot idea or if you left one in the chat, I would love to hear it, and we can build something live together. So Mike, what do we have?
So basically, if any of you have an idea for a lead generation bot, explain it in a sentence or two quickly in the chat. And we will look at, we're just going to pick one, whichever one seems the coolest. So everybody can drop one in now. And I see you raising your hand, Scott. If you don't mind, just type it in, and then the lucky winner will have their microphone turned on, and we'll be able to talk. So we have someone saying a meditation guide, building a resume from a job description, a travel blogger, Content that doesn't sound like all the other content out there.
We got 2 votes for Mark's idea. Build a resume from a job description. That would be hard. That would be a pretty lengthy process. Are you saying customize a job from a job description? Would that be the idea? Or I'm sorry, customize a resume from a job description?
Or rewrite a resume, it seems like.
Yeah, resume score would be easier. That's for sure. I got to think about how I would do the
entrepreneurs find to ensure business aligns with personal goals. The resume one I think is good. The tricky thing though is what people want that to do is they want to upload their resume and then download a new resume.
Yeah,
and beyond what LLMs can do at the moment very easily.
Yeah, and you'd need 2 attachment inputs to be able to do that, because you need the URL of the job posting, or you could copy the job posting and then upload the resume. We could do that one. We could do that one. That one wouldn't be too bad.
And let's just read a couple of the other ones. There's some interesting ones. An ROI bot to see if it's worthwhile for a business to invest in our service based on the monthly cost of the bot versus the average customer spend. A bot that takes your income statement and balance sheet and helps you set interconnected profit first financial sales and marketing goals. And discover exactly what emotional fires are making your best prospects desperate to escape their current situation. KPI for factory, ROI on time calculator. So we have a lot of these. A solar installation lead gen bot that qualifies potential customers and then either texts or emails the contact info and the job description to participating solar installation businesses.
Ray, I want you to email me afterwards. I got an idea for you. That's not related to AI, but what you're trying to do, we've done before. So that's something you're interested in.
Email in the chat, Drew, just so people have it.
Oh yeah, here.
A brand analyzer for local competitive research, a lead gen bot that creates a short version of a buyer avatar with offer to produce a full version, and a research sales leads.
So
I leave it up to you, Drew. They all seem cool.
Here's what I'm thinking. I've actually built a handful of these already, and my email's in the chat. So if anyone wants to email me afterwards, please feel free. I can actually show you a couple of these that I've already built. So I'm going to pick the one that does, where was it here? It was I just lost it. It was like the one about like the buyer persona. So that one, let me show you. I already have one built. Instead of writing it, I'll just walk you through it and then we'll pick another one to build. So let me share my screen here. All right, and we're actually going to go out, and this is actually a brand new, well, it's an old brand new one. It's one that I've already built before, but we just rebuilt. And so essentially, can you all see this? Or it's on a different screen here? Let's do that. There we go. So this is one that I'm actually building for a JV. I'm partnered with another coach to build out his AI tool stack for his clients. And so these are the inputs that it all takes. And we'll just fill this in real quickly. So AI marketing services, prompt people, we help businesses implement AI without impacting customer experience. We'll disqualify someone. Let's see. It would be not enough money or a distrust of AI. And we are in the USA. And I'm just going to leave the competitors blank for right now. And I'm going to leave the additional details blank. So you click submit on this. And in this, what this one's going to do is actually create the entire thing. So this is not going to be like your version of it, but I will show you in the prompting how you can change that. So just give this a second to load. So like this is a pretty intense bot. Like this, because this is a paid bot that we're building, like this does give all the details. So it's name, gender, income level, all that kind of basic stuff. But it goes down and breaks out the guy's personal routine, desires, hobbies and interests, a summary of all their personal details, what kind of firm they work at, number of employees, job title, work summaries. Like it really goes deep. So if you were going to use something like this, the way you would build it is like this. Just get into the edit. Okay, so we're using a form bot for this versus a chat bot, and the reason is because we need to collect a number of data points in order to generate the output. We didn't even bother like changing the role of this. It really wasn't necessary. Role can be necessary in some things, but for this one, we definitely we just left this alone because most of the direction is all being done in the prompt frame itself. So this structure is how I like to work with data, because like if you think about my background, I learned how to code before I learned how to work with AI. And so when I'm thinking about giving instructions to a computer, I want to give it all the resources, or like what we would call packages, prior to me giving it the instructions. So I go and say, hey, this is the user data. This is what each of these mean. And then I go into the instructions. The instructions are pretty short. And then I say down here, provide the following insights. So all you would do was you would just break out everything and give them little descriptions of like provide an hour by hour breakdown. And then whatever you don't want included, you just delete out. So I would build the full buyer persona bot first and then duplicate it, then cut out whatever you feel is oh, well, that's too much. I don't want to give all that for free. And then all you do at the end is you write a simple piece of prompt that's like, after completing the research, send a note to the user saying if they want the full report, go here. And then you just put your URL in there. And then that way, after it runs it, the last thing it says will be, hey, if you want, this is only a sample of the report. If you want the full report, you can buy it here. And what you can also do, if you want to take this kind of one step up, you can actually have it generate all of this stuff, but then you can instruct it to say, like, say we want to like not share the marketing strategy. Say that's the secret sauce. So we say, generate the details below, but don't display them to the user, right? And so the stuff will still be generated. It'll still be transferred into whatever third-party system you want, or just captured in here. And then once they pay, you could even set that up to automate. So like it grabs their user, their email or whatever phone number, grabs all that. You send all that data, including the free report or the buyer persona research, into your CRM. You create a custom field for the output of the AI. Then you take the output from the AI, drop it into an email, and have that email trigger, like have a token trigger. So like essentially like you create an email, put in a token, and then that token changes based on the person's email when they buy. So they buy with that email, they get sent the report. And the only issue you would ever have with that is that if they use a different email, it might not match up. But that's a simple like if else statement. Like if this email doesn't exist, just ask the client to send you the email they used for the initial lead form, and then you're good as gold. They respond back, and then you can send it to them. And if they bought something from you, they're going to be looking for an email from you anyway, so not a big deal. Does that make sense? I didn't see who made that suggestion, but since I already had that one all built out and it's rather big, I figured that would be a good one to start with. Let's see what's another one we can show off here, or maybe we can build the next one. Let's see. So let's see. Any any content generated on my bots weren't emailed to me, even though I asked for it. How can I troubleshoot that?
And by the way, Drew, I'm going to need to run in just a few minutes, but you can keep hanging out answering questions. But I have a meeting at the 15-minute mark.
No, that's fine, man. Sky, I mean, I would just bring Sky, full transparency, Sky is in my coaching program. So Sky, if you want to bring that to one of our sessions, I can look at it for you. It sounds like it's just an issue with how you're calling the actions from Pickaxe. That's an easy troubleshoot. Just curious regarding OpenAI's APIs, which is the best model to use, best output for least amount of money? It all depends on what you're doing. There is a bunch of great websites out there that have like comparisons for which brand you should use for different things, as well as which model. A lot of it has to do with the context window. So how big your prompt is going. Some of this one that I have running, the O3 Mini, is really cost efficient. 4.7 is going to give you obviously like really great results, but it's going to cost you an arm and a leg every time it runs. So I would just go and look up like OpenAI model comparison chart, and then go through a couple of those. And if you don't understand it, AI is there; it'll explain it to you. So just that's the way I would pick it, is like, how big is your prompt? How big is the context window that you need? And what's the does it work? Put your prompt through it, test it, and if it doesn't work, change it. There's been plenty of times where I've had to do that, a number of times on bots, where it's like that's how I initially transitioned to Claude, because I wasn't happy with the OpenAI's copywriting skill, and I was like, and people were saying how Claude was better, so I switched to Claude, and sure enough, better results. Cindy asked, do you use action triggers, trigger notifications to yourself when user fills the form? Yeah, you can. I mean, that's one thing you can do. If you have a bigger marketing stack, I send the data from the form into Pabbly, and then Pabbly into my CRM, and then CRM notifies me. You can do either and both. You can stack actions. So it really is just based on how you want to build that automation for yourself and for your consumers. And then we have, let's see. Won't there be a mismatch between the, okay, I see, that was the question. How do you figure out, that was, so same kind of question. It's a lot of trial and error, and then just looking at comparison charts. Will there be a replay? Yes, it is recorded. I will let the guys from Pickaxe distribute that. A bot that assesses environmental impact of demolishing and renovating old buildings. That's an interesting one. So the variables that you would need would be what? I guess the materials used in the building, like whether it has like lead paint or asbestos, the number of stories, the like the location, that how close it is to a river, groundwater. So you would need some like pretty significant details. It's not impossible. Like we could kind of build that on spec. I don't know how accurate it's gonna be, but it's kind of an interesting concept. So let's play with that. So let me go back here. I'm gonna get out of here. Hey, that didn't.
I'm gonna head out.
Auto save, right?
Oh, I wasn't watching. What happened?
I edited that bot, and I just want to make sure.
Oh, you have to hit the save changes button to.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So like none of that stuff I changed is in here.
Yeah. If you already built the bot, you got to make sure you hit the save change.
Okay. Good.
Well, I need
that's actively being used. I don't want to mess that one up. Okay. So let's go into.
I gotta go. See you later.
Yep. I'll see you later, Mike. Okay. So we'll just do a new Pickaxe, and we're gonna do a form bot. Oh, they brought back the AI builder. That's cool. Okay, so we're going to do this environmental impact bot. And we're going to add the user data first. And we're going to start with hazardous materials used in construction. We're going to collect a number of stories, square footage of building, distance to nearest waterway. What else might be a concern? Distance to nearest wildlife habitat. Soil type would be a good one. And maybe distance from residential neighborhoods. Okay, so we have all these done, and you'll have to excuse my spelling. I'm trying to move fast here so we can get a bunch of these in. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click this new input button on each of these. I'm going to change this one to a multi-choice. Actually, I'm sorry, checkbox. And I'm going to do lead paint. Asbestos, mold, what's another good one? Lead paint, asbestos, mold. We'll just keep it there. We'll just do those three. I'm sure there's other ones in there that are terrible. There's a type of piping that's really bad. It's not hazardous necessarily. It's just not good to have. Hasn't used in construction, and I'm going to actually change this to say or present on site. And then here's what we'll actually add, just to be kind of funny. We'll do nuclear waste, just to see what kind of result we get with that. And then number of stories, add user input, number of stories to be renovated or demolished. And square footage of building. Distance to nearest waterway. I'm glad you asked for this one. This one's a wild thing. I haven't even tried to build something like this before. Distance to wildlife. And obviously I would make these look better if we were building this for a client, but the nice part about AI is that even if you make some misspellings, it'll kind of figure it out. Like, unless it's really badly misspelled, it will do a pretty good job. Distance from residential neighborhoods. Oh, wrong button. Okay, and so now we get into the prompt itself. So for this one, I'm actually going to change the role. So you are an environmental impact analyst that helps users decide whether or not they should demolish a building or renovate it. Excuse me. So then we get into the instructions. Based on the user data. Change that real quick. User data. Just want to make sure that matches so it has a clear understanding of what we're talking about based on the user provided. You will generate a report that will highlight the pros and cons of either demolishing for renovating the building in question. Please provide as much detail and reasoning as possible. Okay. So we're just going to change that word there. And let's test it out. So we will say, I always have a hard time with the word nuclear. We'll just, let's try it with just mold first and see what it does. So we'll do 2 stories, let's say 3,000 square feet. We'll say 1 mile. This will say 300 yards. We'll say loam. We'll say 50 feet. Just pretend this is like a, you know, kind of like a rental property or something like that. So residential property. And here we go. And this is really the part that we want, which is based on the analysis of pros and cons of viable to consider renovation is preferable for the preferable option for the following reasons: mitigation of health hazards, environmental sustainability, cost management. Now, you'd have to decide whether that's the right choice based on all of these metrics, and if it's not, then you need to go in and kind of figure out, okay, well, where is it going wrong? Is it going to environment? Is it like focusing too much on environmental sustainability? You know, is it the kind of thing that's like, you know, a cost management aspect where it's not taking into account all of the costs associated with that, or the increased financial revenue that you can get by having a new building versus an old building? So you'll have to do like a little bit more development on that, but that's a pretty good value prop. Now, the one thing I would change if I was you on this is I wouldn't put it in a pros and cons. I would create something that gives it like a report structure similar to how I did it on the buyer persona. So it's like environmental impact. Write a paragraph about the environmental impact of both renovating and demolishing. Cost efficiency. Give me the cost efficiency details on this or that kind of thing. You could also, if you're using a newer model that can search the active web, like 4.7 or 3.7 for Claude and OpenAI respectively, those models you may be able to even take in like address and not even collect as much of this detail, and then it can just look at the address and kind of figure this stuff out. That would be, I think, a little bit, that's kind of bleeding edge. I don't know if it would really work. You'd have to kind of play with it. But this is how I would build it. I would just, simple instructions, give it a structure that you want it to follow, give it the details above so it has everything. And then this is like pretty valuable. So does that work for you? I wasn't looking at the chat that whole time. So let's see. Do you ask it to provide equal weight to all amounts? Not in that case, but that is something you can do. Like you can set up weighting in the bot, and I would create a separate section specifically for weighting. But yeah, definitely. Does it make a difference when you put? Yeah, it works great. Got the idea. Thank. Perfect, Ken. I can't. If you build it, send it to me because that is such a cool bot idea. Like I want to see it. Does it make a difference if you put world-class expert in the role? Someone told me to. Not really. I've never seen a difference like that. Honestly, that role is kind of optional. Like I built great bots without even messing with the role. Other times I'll spend a lot of time on the role, especially if I wanted to reference. Like what it's good is if you wanted to take a particular tone of a known entity. So like a lot of times if I'm trying to replicate like Russell Brunson for like a sales page or something, like I will put that up there in a role and say like, you are Russell Brunson, or like you are a copywriter who studied under Russell Brunson, so that it will understand the context in which it's supposed to respond. But realistically, like whether you put world class or the best in the world, or like, that's probably not going to make a big difference. It'll make more of a difference if you go and put something like, you are an entry level marketing analyst, that's going to tell it, well, I shouldn't speak at a high level. I should speak at a lower level. So that's more of what you're doing. What are you doing to format your PDF reports? So there is actually a YouTube video. I think it's on Pickaxe's channel, and it's one of the power users of Pickaxe, and he does like a really amazing thing about, he actually, and I'm probably going to get parts of this wrong, so just watch the YouTube video. It's like an hour long, but he does it as an HTML file and then converts it, and that's how he creates like really nice looking PDFs. So go onto Pickaxe's channel, find that video. It was probably like posted a month or two ago. Really good. And if you have trouble, just send me an email and I'll dig it up for you. Let's see. Asbestos is a real problem. You're telling me I had asbestos removed in my house. Yeah, if they use mold in the construction, it would be bad. Agreed. I want to create a studio toolkit that has several different pickaxes. How do I connect the responses from one tool to the next? Yeah, so I can answer that briefly. This is something we're still playing with, so I can't tell you like 100% this works, because most of our use cases are not doing that. But the way you would do it is, oh no, did I just lose that whole thing? Oh, I think I did. Oh, rookie move. Well, hopefully you have it all in the replay. So, oh well. Anyway, if you go into a pickaxe, this is one we did on the previous session, and we go into edit. That's a shame. That was a cool one. I was going to show that to people. Anyway, you go into actions, and you go down here. You can use, I think it's actually in here. Prompt chain with Pickaxe Chat. So what this allows you to do is grab the chatbot ID and then use this to access another chatbot tool from the conversation. So it's essentially like bringing another voice into it. So this is how you would do it, but you'll have to play with it. Actions are they're like very easy, but some of them do require a little bit of trial and error. It's not as, I find that using these in my workflows is harder than doing it in Pabbly, but that's because I've been using Pabbly for like 10 years. So like I would rather do stuff offsite, but this is how you would chain those together. Anyway, let's see what other questions we have to answer here. Do you use actions to trigger notification? Oh, I already answered that one. Let's see. Another idea. Let's see what else we can do. And you can still put them in the chat if I see something interesting pop up. Lead gen bot that creates a short that's the one we did. Brand analyzer for local competitive research. So again, like with local competitive research, that's going to rely on those higher models, and that's going to require a lot of trial and error. The brand analyzer in general will produce decent enough results for a free tool. I probably, just with the way API costs are, I probably wouldn't have it do local competitive research for free. Just because, one, it's going to take you a lot of time to build, and two, your API costs are probably going to be pretty high. Discover exactly what emotional fires are making your best prospects desperate to escape their current situation. So that's kind of the buyer persona that has all that detail in there. A bot that takes your income statement and balance sheet and helps you set interconnected profit first. Yeah, I mean, this one's like really easy. I'll show you the one I built for this. And the thing you have to keep in mind is, because Pickaxe can only take one file upload per Pickaxe, what you need to do with this, and I actually have to get out of this one and go to another studio. And this is one that I built on, yeah, so we'll just go and edit this. So the way this works is pretty simple. Is you just have them create a consolidated P&L and balance sheet. You have it set up as an upload. And then when you get to, the industry you operate in, and then obviously like the lead detail here, you can add as many form fields as you want. But the process is pretty much the same. You'll see that this one does have you're an expert financial analyst with the firm Barron's Inc. You help businesses that need insights into their crucial KPIs, take the P&L balance sheet, turn it into actionable insights. In your role, you might go a little further. The thing you want to avoid with the role is putting too much of the actual instruction into it. And so when I talk about instruction, it's this kind of stuff, like using these two statements uploaded by the user and their industry defined here, so that the KPIs and ratios can compare to events, industry benchmarks for most accurate insights. So all you would really have to do for what you're talking about is like either change which ones you care about here, or just go through this go and add additional sections for their marketing plan or this or that or the other thing. And again, just think about like, that's a lot of value. Like I would probably cut it down to something that will get them excited, but also excited to book a call because they want the rest of the results. And that is another good way to use this is, hey, if you want the rest of the results, book a call with us to review the full report. And like this one, we added as a rule, do not show the formulas used to generate the result. Do not display the submitter's email address and prepare the report to be sent by email, but do not display the code or mention that you were working to send them an email, because these were things that when you called that action, it would do that. The other thing that you can do here is you can just say, don't show them the report, right? Just prompt, don't show them the stuff generated, just point them to booking a call with us. That's a little hardcore. I wouldn't do that. I would give them something to nibble on. But certainly if you didn't want to give them the whole thing, you just tell it, hey, generate all this information, trigger this action to send it via webhook, collect it in your CRM, prepare the email over there, the proposal, or whatever your sales process is, same kind of thing. But yeah, this was an easy one. This one took me like 20 minutes to put together, and the results it generates. Unfortunately, with the transition, none of my runs came over, so it's empty. But yeah, this is a really cool tool that's very, very easy to build. You can spin it up in a minute. Let's see, ROI bot to see if it's worthwhile for a business. That's actually a really good idea. The monthly cost of bot versus average customer spend. Yeah, there's a lot of variables there, man. An ROI bot to see if it's worthwhile for a business to invest in our service based on the monthly cost of the bot versus the average customer spend. So like you're selling a bot as a service and you're saying, is this going to be ROI positive? I think the challenge with something like this is going to be the assumptions you have to make. And you're going to really have to like dial in on the details of like, how is that bot being implemented in a way that's generating revenue? Because if it's just to like customer support, it's very hard to tie customer support tools back to like actual revenue unless the bot is doing some part of the selling, like the bot is setting up the appointments or the bot is closing the deals or something like that. So like I would tinker with that, but I think that's going to be a hard one for you to put together and actually get like an accurate kind of thing, unless it's like I would need more details to really dig into that one. Lead gen bot that helps entrepreneurs find and ensure business aligns with personal goals. I like that one. We can do that one, Omar. That's a relatively easy one too. I've done this versions of this before. I don't think I have them in Pickaxe though. That was pre-Pickaxe, the dark ages, when I was struggling with a bunch of tools that barely worked. But I do like this concept. And so let's go over to the demo studio and we'll build a new one. And maybe this time I'll remember to save it. So for this one, I would actually go more for the chatbot because you don't have like fixed values necessarily that you want to go after. So I would do the chatbot. And if you haven't used the automatic AI builder, the last version only worked with chatbots. I don't know if the new version will do form bots, but that is also a really great. Actually, let's use that. I'll use that to show you guys how it works. So if you use the automatic AI builder, this is a pretty cool feature. I'm glad they brought it back because it was down for a couple days. So yes, and then I think you guys are you're seeing the screen. So what type of tool do you want to build and what will people do with it? So I'm just going to grab your text and drop it right in. I'm not even going to mess with it. Let's see. So we're going to do entrepreneurs. Um, right, so we'll just create like a really soft kind of bot. And you could go the other way with this too. So like say you're a real like hard as nails coach, like you know a GSD style coach, like you could do it the exact opposite way and it'll give you the exact opposite result. Or if you have a particular like framework, you can also put that framework in here and then it will take that and implement it into the prompt. So it will go through and write the whole prompt for you, and you can go through and tweak it. So like you are compassionate, encouraging lead generation bot tailored for entrepreneurs. You provide guidance to ensure their business aligns with their personal goals. You focus on being non-judgmental, supportive, making feel users feel understood and motivated. Always be compassionate, encouraging, avoid any form of feedback or judgment. Ask open-ended questions to encourage reflection on personal goals. Provide actionable insights and aligning business and personal aspirations. Confirm understanding by paraphrasing users' input. Approach to lead generation, start conversation by acknowledging unique challenges faced. Guide users through a series of questions, help to articulate their personal goals. Suggest strategies and resources. Sure, I think that's good. So we'll just say yes. And that's going to cook for a minute. So while that is doing its thing, I'll go through and look at a couple of other questions. So a resume score bot would be good. The only reason I would say don't do that is because there's already tools on the market that do resume scores that are very well known, and it may just be hard for you to generate leads doing that. Now, if you had a particular take on a resume score, or like, you know, how is your resume going to do in a specific market, you might be able to do it, but I probably wouldn't build that one for lead gen. I think I would think about it in a little bit of a different way. But my bot guides entrepreneurs, business owners, and services pros to craft compelling why for themselves and for the world, and why do they work to do this? This vision leads into creation and bot training. Yeah, George, we actually just built one that works on the why as well. That is a really good use for it, because it's also great for a conversational bot, which it looks like our conversational bot is done. So we will go in here to the edit. Here we go. And we will go and view it. So like I would probably have this, one of the things I would tweak on this is for it to start the conversation or have some kind of like pre-frame of what the bot's going to do or how to talk to it. But as it is now, we'll just start with like a basic message. Let's see how it runs. Let's do unsatisfied. So like one of the things I would probably add to this is like, I don't like when ChatGPT, especially in a chat prompt, repeats the problem back to me. It just feels very not conversational, very robotic. So like I would probably tell it like, don't repeat, you know, when anytime you get an input, don't repeat the problems, the person's problems back to them. It helps the dialogue be a little bit smoother. It's completely normal to experience those feelings. Can you share a bit more of contributing, identify specifics? Great step, finding some clarity. don't make enough money and don't have enough time. I know these are like the most mundane, basic things, but I'm just trying to pick something that will give us a pretty standard result. And my computer is bogging down on this, boy. There we go. Yeah, so this is doing a pretty good job. Like it's working through. Now this might be a long conversation, so that's something you have to think about. And so like you see, like I had this one's just set up for like a handful of credits. So like realistically, you may have to spend a decent number of credits on this because this is going to be a wide ranging conversation. But at the end of the day, like this might work well. Like this could very well be a bot that does do a little bit of that. You know, if we go back to like a coaching type bot, something that's supplemental, it could work well as long as you're picking a API or a model rather that is not going to chew up your budget and spit it out like, you know, yesterday's news. So that's just to go back, we can like exit this. Oh, I'm sorry, you weren't seeing it. Open in a new tab. I'm sorry about that. So here it is. So I was looking over and you guys were all like clapping as I was like, I must be doing a great job. This is very mundane stuff, but I'm glad you're enjoying it. This is what the chat log looks like. So I said, hi, this is what's, you know, how are you feeling? Unsatisfied. So it's doing a pretty good job of like coaching me through this, but like, this is what I'm talking about. Like you have the 0 credits here. So that's the thing you got to look at. Now, if we go back to Pickaxe, and actually we got to go back to this page actually, because it's opened up like 3 new tabs on me. If we go into edit this, what you're going to see is that exact prompt that we already did. So right here, this is everything that it generated. And then you just go in and edit it. And if you don't like how it's talking, like if you make all the changes and it's still not like sounding the way you want, then the easiest button to click is the model and just pick a different model and see. Generally, for anything that's going to be like real human focused, like not technical analysis, I would definitely do like Claude. Really, I wouldn't do any of these other ones. I mean, anything that needs to sound like a human, Claude is going to do best. Anything that's going to be like analysis, you're probably better off with ChatGPT. Not a big fan of DeepSeek, so you know, take that with a grain of salt. Mistral's interesting. You can use it if you want. I don't really have a use case for it. Same with Llama. You know, it's if you want to go the open source route, like Llama 3 is there. There's also like apparently it's less restrictive. I've not really ever noticed a difference with Llama. I've tried to push it and it seems just as restrictive as the other one. So, but yeah, 4.5 is the one you want to stay away from because that one is going to eat your money. And same with 3.7 Sonnet, unless you really have a use case that you have to use that version. I would stay away from those. Okay, let's jump back into the chat. I'm sure it's going to be full of people that have just been yelling at me for the last 15 minutes about not being able to see the screen. Let's see. So we need our own API to use Claude. It all depends on your membership level, whether you have access to the custom APIs or not. I don't remember how it breaks down at the different levels, but some people will be able to just input their own APIs, API codes into Pickaxe. Other people will just have the credits, and because you just have the credits, you don't have access to the Pro model. So I think if you're on Gold, you don't have access to custom API. If you're on Pro, you do. And yeah, that's how that shakes out. Let's see. I can't. I'm so sorry, guys. Yeah, so Anjum, your question about truncated text output. So that can be caused by the token limits on the API or the model you are using. So some models have very long, they can do really, really long output. Other ones do very, very little output. And so it's important to go back to that, you know, look at a comparison chart, see how many credits or tokens or whatever they call the little piece. I always forget that terminology. However many that has, you need to make sure that your output is matching that. So that is a very common issue. And most of the time it's because you're using the incorrect model. Does this cost credits to build a bot? I don't think so with the automatic. I don't think that costs credits. I mean, I've used it a bunch of times just to get kind of a starting place, and I don't think I've ever paid for it. So I don't think it costs anything. Looks like we have some open hand or raised hands here. Was that all raised just because you guys couldn't see me, or do you actually have questions? If you want to put it in the chat, I'm just going to keep kind of reading through these, and then I'm more than happy to let people jump on mic here. What's the difference between a chatbot and a form bot? Is a chatbot a bold pop-up versus a form that people interact with? So essentially, like here's the story, right? Like what you're asking about is kind of two different things. One is what is the user experience of using the bot, and the other is how is it implemented on the website. Once you build a bot, you have the options to embed it, and then it'll give you options on how to embed it. So like, do you want it to be an inline form? Do you want it to be do you want it to look like this? Do you want it to look like that? So you just choose the one for the application you're using. When it comes to form versus chat is just conversational, whereas a form is a form they fill out, click the button, and then the form is submitted and they receive the output. So that's really the big difference between it. It's just like, do you want them to fill out a form because you're trying to collect specific details that are going to be used and it's easier to collect them that way? Or is it better to have more of a conversation like we used with this entrepreneur alignment bot, where it's much more engaging to have a chat conversation than just like, here, what is your, like, think about it like going to the doctors. Like, no one likes filling out those health forms. If your stuff is going to be a pain to fill out, then I would do a chatbot instead. But with that said, let me open up the mute management here. There we go. So that will go live here in just a second. If you're not seeing it go live on your screen, you have a question, you may just have to refresh your browser. Omar, if you have a question, try to unmute your mic. Let's see.
I hope you can hear me okay.
I can hear you.
Actually have already, awesome. You may have already answered this question, but I lost my internet for a moment. Okay. I'm looking at the form and the chat bot, and it suddenly occurred to me that I also have survey software that I use, and that a lot of the way that the AI can answer the questions kind of obviates the need for having separate software, with the exception of one thing. Where do you collect that data that you're getting from the user? Right now, it just seems to be in a kind of a open list versus a database that's easy to access. I'm just kind of wondering how you get around that.
Yeah, so it's through the Pickaxe actions. So what I do is I bring the data from Pickaxe into Pabbly, and then I do all my data processing either in Pabbly, or I pass the raw data into GHL and then process it there. But you would follow the same thing no matter what your stack is you connect some type of automation or webhook in the Pickaxe actions, and then have it tell it, this is the data I want to send. And then you just have to match the data from the webhook to into whatever database you want it to. So that's the best way to do it. There's not like I think there is like an export button somewhere in there, but your best bet is to just webhook it, because that's going to give you real-time data uploads as opposed to having to like download and upload over and over.
I mean, and that makes sense, except there's that limit to the number of actions you can have for any Pickaxe. If you can only have 2 actions, then it seems like if that's your maximum, it seems like you're kind of using the available actions just for this particular process. You know what I mean? I don't know how to overcome that.
So I would like, what are your 2 actions that you're thinking of in that scenario I just gave you? What would the 2 actions be?
So what if one action, for example, was just producing a PDF report, but at the same time, you wanted to collect that user data so that you could use it later on?
Yeah, so you could, if your account lets you have 2, then you have one action that's generate the PDF report, and then one action that is sending the data over to Pabbly. Or what you could do is you could, in your CRM, set up a custom field for the data that the report is generated that autofills in their CRM record, and then drop that token into the body of an email that's pre-designed, and it will just auto-populate that specific person's content, and then you just have it set up to go through an automation that sends it out to them. So I mean, there's a lot of ways to get around this. Like the best the best advice I can give you is don't rely on Pickaxe's actions as your only source of automation in this, because really the actions are great, but the data is really valuable once you get it out of Pickaxe. So like get the stuff out of Pickaxe as quickly as possible, manipulate it elsewhere, and then do the rest of your marketing for it. Like, don't think about this is, you know what it's good for? It's good for like testing. It's good for like, yeah, let me see what all this would look like in a PDF. I'm going to put this action in, test it. Yeah, that looks good. No, the line spacing is kind of wonky. Let me have it add line breaks in these particular sections, then take all that data and pass it over via webhook.
That makes super a lot of sense. Thank you so much for that.